As a young child, I was daily exposed to some of the best literature in the world. My mother and father read Bible stories to me from a big picture Bible book every night. But they also read children's stories from a big pile of picture books stacked in one corner of my room. My favorite storybook was the one entitled The Wizard of Oz. Most of the characters in the book seemed rather strange. I didn't like the wicked witch who tormented Dorothy, but I found a lot of empathy for one particular character, the Cowardly Lion. Unlike other lions who proudly strutted their reputation for being courageous kings of the jungle, this poor lion was literally trembling in fear because he lacked courage. His character resonated with me because I felt I too was lacking courage. I was afraid of the big kids on the playground. I was afraid to be alone. I feared lightning and thunder, and I quaked with fear whenever I heard the sound of an air raid siren each week to prepare people for a nuclear attack. I needed courage, just like that miserable lion in The Wizard of Oz. Courage was always the first thing on my prayer list each night before I went to sleep. Embracing godly character makes a point of emphasizing the dramatic change that has occurred in our culture over the last half century. Yet in some ways, at least, not much has really changed. The community where I live still has weekly siren tests to make sure everyone knows there might be danger. They're not called civil defense tests, but they could still be called that. Today, we refer to them as tornado warnings, and people are encouraged to seek shelter in a basement, not in a bomb shelter. More than ever, you and I need an extra measure of courage as we face a time in history that threatens our physical and our spiritual well-being. I can't speak for you, but I know that I am still a trembling coward, and I am not very reassured by what I see on the news. We are living in an age in which Christians are under attack for the faith we confess. So, where will you go when the sirens are blaring? Let's take a moment to collect our thoughts and consider where we will find the courage to remain faithful and steadfast in our faith. Read Deuteronomy 31:6. Who are our spiritual enemies? What harm could your enemies inflict on you or the other members of your family? Does this text encourage you? If so, explain how you are encouraged. In addition to courage, what other blessings does God promise in this text? Have you noticed that Christians are different? Our new man in Christ makes us different from the people around us who are still living in unbelief. Chapter 13 reminds us that we have become God's agents of change, difference makers, blessing seekers, and cross bearers. We are living in faith, clinging to Jesus' promises, but also committed to serving in His kingdom by bearing fruit for Him. Let's stop for a few minutes to consider how God has changed us. Create a list of ways in which Christians are different from unbelievers. How does being different because of our faith in Jesus make us tremble with fear? How does being different also embolden us? You know, God deliberately created the first people on earth to be different. Adam and Eve were not only different from the animals in the way they looked or thought or remembered or felt or worshiped or spoke or how they used their imagination, God created them with a personal identity, an identity that was connected directly to the personal relationship they enjoyed with Him. There's a flip side to that happy picture. Without God, who we are becomes an empty bucket of nothing, a shell of what God intended for the human race. Moreover, without God, our life becomes utterly purposeless. With faith in Jesus, we become productive, which is exactly what God intended us to be. Our faith in Jesus makes us somebody. Because of Him, we have real worth and value. Because of His work, we are part of the great harvest that is already underway. In the next few minutes, consider what a large canvas oil painting of the big picture of God's great harvest looks like as we trace the process from beginning to end. Read each text, noting how God portrayed the great harvest in His Word. Jesus addressed the question of life's purpose by telling His followers a parable about a farmer who went out into his fields to sow seeds. You can find a detailed discussion of this parable in chapter 13 of Embracing Godly Character. Read Jesus' parable of the sower and the seed. The text is located in Matthew 13, verses 3 through 9, and later again 18 through 23. Then answer the questions that follow. Who is the sower in Jesus' parable? What does the seed represent? What parts of this parable are oriented to God's law? What part of the parable is oriented to the gospel? Explain that one. What are the spiritual reasons some fields were not able to produce fruit? How do we become fields of good soil? How do you think God will use the fruit that is harvested? The two most basic teachings of the Bible are law and gospel. Law motivates with the power of fear. The gospel motivates with the power of love and appreciation. Which does God use to move us to bear fruit for Him and His kingdom? Explain. Rank. That is most frequently expressed to the least. The following reasons people frequently give for not reading their Bibles or having spiritual conversations at home. Do any of these reasons resonate with you or the other members of your family? The final activity in our course is a practical encouragement designed to help you and other members of your family grow daily in your faith, and at the same time grow closer to each other because of your love for Jesus and each other. Circle 7 days on your calendar. Explain to the other members of your family that you are inviting them to join you in a series of 7 important family conversations. On each of the 7 days, read one of the texts below. The Bible text that has been chosen for day 1 will be helpful in understanding the number of individuals who have gathered to participate in your family conversations. When you have finished reading each text, discuss it. Let everyone have an opportunity to share their thoughts. When the discussion has run its course, offer a prayer, asking God to strengthen your family's resolve to remain steadfast in reading and talking about His Word.